here before I start. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Esports Hub Talk Show. My name is Campbell and I will be your host this evening. And joining alongside me is the common face you will recognise. That is Paradox from the States. Oh, what was this? We're doing an angel pose. Go on then, Paradox. Oh, we've either lost connection with Paradox and it's completely frozen. Paradox, what's going on?
I don't know.
In the building, don't worry about it. And Tony hasn't had a new haircut and isn't a Panda fan now instead of being a Bulldog fan. But it is Dirk the Caster who's going to be joining us this evening. Sadly, Tony can't make it for personal reasons. Dirk, how are you doing, my man? Welcome to the Esports Talk Show.
I'm doing pretty good. I know I tried to get on a guy's show right before Dallas, but travel issues, you know how that goes. Couldn't make it on last time. But all that matters is that we're on now, and we're going to be talking about some great things here tonight, wherever you're from. I think it's tonight for you, today for us.
Tonight for me, it's 8 p.m. for me right now. So tonight for me, but today for you guys. But whatever time zone it is and wherever we are in the world, we always make sure that on the Thursday, every single week, the talk show will be live, and whoever we have on, we're definitely going to make sure, as they say, the show must go on, Paradox. The show definitely must go on.
The show went on last week when you disappeared on us, and I had to host. Yeah,
so first time, Paradox actually hosted last week, and I did watch it back, and Paradox, I was threatened for my job role, because you did a fantastic job. So make sure, though, that if you do miss any of our shows, they're on our YouTube channel, the Esports Hub, and you can watch them back as many times as you want. But anyway, what are we going to be talking about today, Paradox, and where are we going to start with first? Well, it would be a bit rude if we didn't start with the Call of Duty World League, as it is literally round the corner. And let's start talking a little bit, Paradox, about the spectator passes and the way that people can go to these events. Remember, it is a LAN event this time. It's not going to be online. And, let's talk about how these people can get to the event, watch the event, and see their favourite teams compete in the CWL. So we're going to start off by looking at the spectator passes, Paradox. Now, if you could start by breaking these down for me a little bit, because I'm a bit confused by these colours and what's going on here.
All right. So each group has a color. Instead of your normal A, B, C, D, it's green, red, blue, and yellow, right? Group red is the one that goes first, that has Team Envious and Splice in it. Those are the two sort of big names in that one. $20 for a spectator pass. Now you get like a month of Game Battles Premium, and there might be one more thing included in that. I can't remember at this time, but you think it's just right there in Columbus. At least I can say it's right there. It's like a 3.5 hour drive for me. Not that far away. Good bang for your buck. You get Saturday and Sunday access. Oh, okay. You get like an attendee Game Battles profile badge. So anyone that
all
cares
about boosting that profile badge.
There you go. Yeah. See,
so it's all about.
I think it's good value, right? You get a lot of matches that are going on too.
Yeah, definitely, and I think $20 as well is a reasonable price. I mean, there's a lot of people were talking about it where you don't want it to be too much. If you want a good fan base there, because some of these MLG events really do thrive off the fact that the fan base is very supportive for all teams attending and really does generate that esports feel. So I think $20 is a reasonable price. I mean, Dirk, in that situation, do you agree $20 is a reasonable price for spectators for two days of action?
I honestly thought it was going to be more expensive.
Yeah,
I saw $20 and I was like thinking, because I mean, MLG events aren't the cheapest to go to. I mean, in the sense you buy the VIP. I mean, usually general, but like $20 when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's pretty nice. And I think that's well worth it. I mean, especially you have to think probably a lot of people going to this aren't going to be traveling from other states, like they do for these huge open events. So it's going to be good for around the local area. I mean, obviously you're going to have those major fans of teams who are going to come fly out too. So I think $20 is definitely great for both days too. So I mean, it's basically $10 per day you're looking at. Yep. So I mean, I think that's great. I haven't seen the new and improved MLG arena. I did go there a couple of years ago, back when it was still the small thing that it was. Kind of got little glimpses of it. What was it in the Gears of War first? It was the last tournament that they had before it switched over to Gears of War.
Warcraft they showed a little bit too.
Yeah, so it's sort of something they haven't gone completely public with in terms of how it's going to look, how the stage is going to be set up too. But yeah, $10 per day, I think that's great.
Oh, so you're right. You look like someone's breaking into your house there for a split second.
I have no idea what that noise was. It sounded like something dropped. I'm scared right now. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I mean, I do feel for your safety, but I mean, it would make the talk show amazing if someone did just break in and just take you down. I'm not going to lie. I mean,
it would be on Twitch moments and everything would go viral.
Yeah, you have to do. The show must go on, Paradox. I don't care. I don't care if someone's coming in there bursting in with a gun. You stop him where he is and you carry on the show. All right? show must go on. We spoke about this at the start. But anyway, if anyone is interested in going to have a look at the Call of Duty World League CWL Global Open, it is at MLG Columbus' studio, Columbus, Ohio. So for Group Red, it will be April the 22nd to the April the 23rd. For Group Blue, it's April the 29th to April the 30th. Group Yellow Spectator Pass is going to be May the 6th to May the 7th. And then finally, the Group Green Pass is May the 13th to May the 14th. Well, I say finally, but the prices and the tickets haven't come out yet. But obviously, there's a playoff spectator pass as well. That is also May the 26th to May the 28th. So remember, lots of stuff up for grabs if you buy that ticket. That 1 month Game Battles premium card, and also that all important attendee Game Battles profile badge. So there we go then. So, are you going to get a chance to go to some of these? Any of you too? Because I mean, it's a little bit of a way for me to go. But I mean,
it's just a little far for you, you know.
Yeah, just
tiny
a
bit.
tad.
It's an easy drive. What is it, like 5 hours or something?
Well, I mean, I best start walking now if I'm going to go to the first group. But I mean, are you guys going to possibly pop out for that one?
I want to. Right, it's 3.5 hours away from me. Dirk, you should probably go to road trip.
Well, like I was all for it because I remember when it got announced, me, you, and Matt were like, "Oh, dude, we can all road trip, go to it." But I'm moving to Arizona within the next week, so that makes like what? It would have been like a 6-hour drive for me, maybe more. I'm not sure, but now it's going to be like a 3-day drive if I wanted to road trip. So I'm going to the West Coast live, so I won't be able to go to it. So, but no, I'm looking forward to it. I wish I could road trip to it. That'd be pretty awesome. Just go there for like a weekend and stuff. But yeah, I know I'm guessing you're probably gonna definitely go to at least one of the weeks, if not all of them, right?
I'm doing everything I can.
MLG's biggest fan, Paradox, will be there holding this sign.
Gotta go.
Ready. It'll be a sign that just says, "Let me cast." Let me cast. Let me cast.
I get a shirt custom made.
He's either gonna have a sign, a shirt. He's gonna be the guy. The camera comes into the crowd and just gonna be. Yeah.
The camera comes into him, and immediately his brain just programs breakdown, so he just starts talking to the camera about the previous game that just happened. And yeah, I think the camera just pans past him as he's trying to get involved with analytical breakdown. Either way, Paradox, you'll be a great face to see at an MLG event. But I mean, one thing that's been confusing me a little bit is something I saw on social media, and when it first happened, I didn't believe it. But then I kind of got a little bit excited about it. Kind of thought, yeah, that would be a good idea. But guess what I'm talking about, if you don't know what it is that they're changing this Search and Destroy map Scorch to Breakout. So it looks like Dirk is agreeing on me this one. I kind of had the similar reaction, to be honest with you, Dirk, because for me, Scorch, Search and Destroy had that 3-lane meta, which we talk about in Call of Duty. There was the simplified, original style, 1 lane down the left, 1 lane down the middle, and 1 lane down the right. But I think it was so close quarter that some S&D rounds could be over within 20 seconds. If you played against an aggressive team, and it's quite funny that you've got the Panda jersey on, because I couldn't reference a better team that played aggressively. If you came up against a team like that, especially the likes of Fastballer with ERAD, I mean, that Search and Destroy game could be one of the fastest Search and Destroy games ever. I think there wasn't much strategy in terms of setup, because it could be broken literally from spawn, and I think a lot of the Search and Destroy gameplay with that one, especially the B bomb site, was in such an awkward place that you couldn't really get the bomb down. It was always you had to make the kills before you're like at least 3 kills at least, or you would easily be shot off bomb from their spawn. So I kind of agree in that way why changing it to Breakout would be a good idea. But I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, I have to fire out to you guys. Dirk, I'll start with you because you did cheer quite a bit. I mean, why is it that Breakout, Search and Destroy is just so much better than Scorch?
Well, we haven't seen Breakout being played. I know when the game first came out, me, Paradox, a bunch of other people in like 8's lobbies. We're just trying to play Breakout just to see how it played for Hardpoint, CTF, and all that, but none of us ever played Search. I think from the overhead map, I think A bomb site is located in Showers, and then B is on the back dirt road too. So I mean, it's still a little bit unorthodox, but just going to Scorch, Search, and Destroy as a caster, and when you cast these tournaments and you watch it so many times, it's the most repetitive thing, right? Because all it is just, like you said, constant B hits. It's either there's going to be one team gives up the B site, the offensive team is going to push straight through, or it's just going to be like just straight head-to-head combat, and that's not what you want to see in Search and Destroy, right? But that's like the jetpack Search and Destroy that we've seen in Infinite Warfare, where JCap and all those players have even said sort of like, Search and Destroy isn't about playing for picks anymore. It's literally just a team deathmatch now. Yeah. That's like one of the biggest things. So I'm hoping with Breakout coming in, depending on how it plays and what defensive setups you can get, we'll see more variety between both the bomb sites, like a Retaliation or like a Crusher. But on a map like Scorch, how many times do we see A hits? Like maybe out of the blue, like it randomly works for a team because they completely all flood B, and it's just like one of those things where you sit there and I'm like, wow, it's the most perfectly timed push ever. That's the only time I ever saw A hits. Other than that, it was the easiest to defend. B site is very easy to defend as well. And I mean, like we said, with the B site, they tried moving it to try to make it better, but it was an easier spot on offense to get the bomb down. Like to highlight FaZe, they'd push Enable onto the site and immediately have that bomb down within the first like 20 seconds of the round. But then when they moved it, it gave the I would say the advantage towards the defensive side more because it was on the other side of Drill too. So it's just a very weird map. I mean, a lot of people I don't there's people out there who enjoy Scorch Search and Destroy. I don't know for the life of me.
14-year-olds with E-Rads.
I was like, I really
That's the
enjoyed this
people who
map.
enjoy
And then I
Scorch.
sit there, I'm like, well, that's probably because your favorite team was very good at this map, to be fair. So, but no.
You're incredibly young and you have the most insane reactions.
Yeah, and I sat there and I was like, as soon as I saw that was out, because like I said, every tournament you cast that, it's just the same thing over and over again. And it gets so repetitive that you sort of run out of things to talk about as a caster, where like on the maps, like we brought up Crusher and Retaliation, there's constant like switches to bomb sites that they go to. Throwback is another map that's sort of like Scorch, but it's nowhere near as bad. You see some pushes to both sites, but it's just not a constant. Like on that map, I think it's A is where everybody just constantly hits and hits over and over again. But you do see that occasional B push too. So I'm really happy, and I'm looking forward to see how Breakout does play.
Yeah, and I mean Paradox as well. Like when we're talking about Scorch, I mean there are moments that we have seen on Scorch that blew our minds. I mean, you cast your mind back to Formal 2-piece with the sniper. You know, the double quick scope. I mean, there's a moment that obviously
it's his own highlight reel. So
well, yeah, you could put him in his own highlight reel, but I mean that's something that we will then miss. But I think for me, Search and Destroy has to be the bombs have to spawn closer to defense. I think that for me is something that happens in the Call of Duty, and that's what happens in Breakout. You spawn near the bombs towards the left, and obviously there's a battle for War Run at A. I mean, if they hit War Run and you hit War Run, obviously that's a gunfight engagement, but at least B is close to you. Whereas with Scorch, it seems that the bomb is literally smack bang in the middle of both the two teams, apart from A, obviously, and it seems like it's a constant battle for map control. And like if you play back and you play a defensive strategy for Search and Destroy, you're gonna lose a bomb site, you're gonna give it up, and therefore the team will probably end up winning on Scorch. So that's kind of backing up what Dirk said. Instead of it just being complete team deathmatch, as JCap referred to, it's a little bit more strategy based, and that is what all Search and Destroy has ever been in Call of Duty, it being one of the most strategy based game modes. And that's why the likes of Fizzip have been such an incredible Search and Destroy player in the past, why Killer had dominated Search and Destroy in the past as well, because these are smart Call of Duty players. And with it coming into YW and maybe Black Ops 3, you could say as well, with the new advanced movement and the way that the game has been played in S&D, that touch has been lost because it's not necessarily been about strategy anymore. It's actually awarding to have 12 plus kills in Search and Destroy and be that aggressive kind of slayer role in the S&D game mode. So maybe Breakout Hardpoint, it's got that 3 structure again. You know, it's very simple 3 lanes of sight. Maybe that will be something that we can see in Breakout. And maybe it might make it a little bit more interesting for us. I'm assuming you agree with the same way here, Paradox. Or is there anything else that you would have to add?
I mean, I'm just looking at the map. Like the first thing I did when the announcement was out, I just booted up my PS4. I was like, okay, let's look at where the sites are. I feel like Showers, if you're on defense and you're playing a bit defensive, the offense has to push sort of on the outside. So normally you think Hardpoint when you're holding down cell block, like looking over towards Showers, they have to be sort of really aggressive there. But if a team just takes the inside of the map, like you go through loading over to A, they're not going to spot you at all. The only thing I'm worried about is the B site, because it is right there for the defense. Like it's you take a couple of steps and you're right there, right? So that's the only thing I'm a bit worried about. I feel like it'll be A heavy, B can come into play somewhat, but I just feel like that's going to be more of a rotation strategy than anything else.
And it also feels like for me as well, like, I mean, like you say, it's literally a few steps. So you could just send one guy to sit back there, spawn building, and then just B-bomb peak every single couple of seconds. But then it also feels to me that if a team is going to opt to push to B, they would then have to force out the base through mid-map and as well at the same time pinch for an ability that one player at the back cannot just have a simple gunfight. And that's going to be very difficult in Search and Destroy to go all the way through the middle of the map to be able to then come around the back. I mean, the best thing I could think, Paradox, is unless you baited an 8 and then you could go around the back fire their spawn then. But there's loads of, obviously this is pro players we're talking about, they will come up with the strategies, but there's loads of things we could talk about with that. But let us know in the chat as well, guys, and while I'm saying that, we do like you guys to get involved with us in the Esports Hub chat. Make sure that you let us know in the chat, or you can let us know on social media at hashtag the Esports Hub and get your say as well. If you've got any questions for myself, Paradox, or Dirk, then do put them in the chat. So then, what do you guys think in the chat of this change? Is it benefiting the players? Is it benefiting? That's a good question I'm going to ask you. Does this benefit players or viewers?
United benefits,
well,
I would say,
United
the most out of any single person at all.
Is that because of slow-paced style of Call of Duty?
They're map record on Scorch, Search, and Destroy.
Pretty
sure Arcides was saying that I'm pretty sure it was 0% on land, or it's something like really, really low. Like, so they are happy that map is leaving. Right?
Well, I mean, you would be, but does it benefit viewers or players? Or does it benefit both?
I'd say you could say it benefits the viewers as well, because as Dirk was saying, like, and the three of us know this because we're always like normally casting everything, you sort of run out of stuff to say a little bit. So if we keep the conversation going, keep people engaged, right? This is a map where we can do that a little bit more. You might see rotations happening a lot more too. Just depends on how it ends up playing. I feel like it's good overall.
But the main question here, and I'll go to you for this one, Dirk, is the timing of this change just so wrong?
See, that's like something that people have been bringing up too. Well, it doesn't go into effect till after I-60, so like we still have a couple weeks until the Pro League starts. But my argument towards that was Scorch, Search, and Destroy. Like, what are you really losing out on, right? There's no strategy to it. Like we said, it's just the same thing every single time. Like, not like we could sit there every broadcast. As soon as Scorch, Search, and Destroy comes into play, we sit there. It's going to be a B hit. They're going to send 2 players through security, and then they're going to send 2 through the wall run side to go on to the B side. It's literally the same thing. So the way I look at it, I think it came like just at the right time. Now it'd be completely different, maybe like a couple days like before, like, okay, we're going to change this. But now it's like an even playing field. We're probably going to see teams scrim, search, and destroy for the first time ever to try to get a feel of strategies on this map to see how it plays. But then again, we have to remember the players are the ones who voted this map in. Out of, what was it, 64 total players in the league that they voted on too. So they feel like this map is the best one to replace that. I mean, there's a lot of people saying it should replace Throwback and stuff, but just staying on the topic of this, I think it's going to benefit viewers too. Because just imagine, right? You've never watched Call of Duty you never watched Call of Duty Esports in your life. First match you watch is a Scorch, Search, and Destroy. You jump straight into the action within 30 seconds. The round's done because it's just constant kills, and that's it. They're gonna look at it and be like, "Holy I can't even keep up with anything. Like, what am I gonna do?" So that's one of the things that I feel like it benefits the viewer. In terms of players, like I said, the players talked. I mean, obviously, not all of them are just like breakout. But I mean, what other map are you really going to pick from in Infinite Warfare 2? So I feel like it came just at the right time. I feel like a week later from now, it would have been very bad. I feel like people have been very upset with it. But I feel like right now, it's good. But like you said, you're not losing much. Now, if they changed out like a Retaliation or Crusher for this map, people would be outraged because they're like, okay, we go through these strategies, we go through these steps with our coaches, managers, and all that. And now we're losing out on this. But like we said, Scorch, Search, and Destroy, throw a controller into a random player's hand and know immediately, figure out within the first couple rounds, be like, oh, we're supposed to go to B every time, not A, because we're just going to get taken out by somebody's K-bar NV4 down long haul. So that's like one of the biggest things. So yeah, I think it's good.
I mean, anything in Call of Duty where something new is happening, this is for the casters, this is for the viewers, this is a new chance to see how teams will compete on a new map that we haven't seen throughout the year. So, I mean, there are benefits for that one as well. But we're going to be moving on from the Call of Duty World League because I want to talk about everything we enjoy talking about here, and that is Rostermania. Well then, welcome back, guys. Rostermania. We need a longer gift for that Paradox. I'm sat here, and then it's back again, and I'm like,
5 seconds. It's
wonderful. Can we not have
Sets the
something
stage
right? Can we not have something that's like slow-mo Rostermania? So at least I got enough time to compose myself on what's going on next. Because it's the quickest Rostermania gift thing, but it is a beautiful thing anyway, seeing that. So let's talk about it then. Paradox, hit me with the first thing that we have seen this weekend from Rostermania.
All right, so the weirdest thing I feel like for me is that we've started seeing E6 apparently been scrimming with Priesta over in Ruiz. I don't know like what this whole situation is. I know people have been talking about it on Reddit. I know like Nameless threw a question out about it. And as far as we know, roster's locked during Dallas, right? So there has to be something in the handbook, which somehow I've actually read but don't even remember some of the stuff. There has to be some sort of loophole or something in there where it's like, if a change has to be made during an emergency or something, it can be made. I don't know what's going on with this, but as far as I know of, I think they said Priesta's still under contract apparently too, so that makes this thing really even more interesting. I don't know what's going on. If E6 do end up playing with Priesta in the Global Pro League, I'm actually really interested to see how that works out.
But I mean, Dirk, is Priesta better than Emma Ruiz? Is that a good if that's an actual official thing and MROE ends up being, departing from E6 and E6 end up being pushed up, bearing in mind that E6 have been a team stuck for quite a long time. There's a lot of chemistry going on between those guys really since the start of IW. And we always talk in this show, I mean, if Tony was here, he'd be saying it right now. Chemistry is one of the key factors to success. And I just never thought out of all the rosters in Call of Duty that E6 would be the one that would split. I mean, to me, they seem like a family roster. They are very, very close with each other. There's a lot of chemistry between them. But I mean, you're going into one of the biggest leagues and changes have to happen, but is Priester for MRE is the one to make?
See, just going like this whole situation, like really weird. Like I opened up Twitter yesterday, I saw it, went on Reddit. Reddit has their own little theories and stuff like that with it. Because like Paradox brought up, in the handbook, it doesn't state anything about subs, anything like that anywhere in the handbook. So that's what's really weird, because a lot of people are just saying, okay, he's a sub for E6. But then again, like, why are you really scrimming with a sub? Maybe they're trying to get a feel. Okay, is Priester going to be a good sub for us, like going down that road? But then again, there's people saying, oh, it's like a for sure thing. Emery's is gone. Now, like comparing the two play types, no, Emery's has been slacking a little bit from the matches that I've seen them from the old TGC. You didn't get to see a majority of their matches. Some were obviously going to be on stream. These guys have been able to make noise on LAN as well. I think Priester would be a better fit than Emery's, but like you said, we bring up the whole chemistry factor. E6, I look at these guys, and for some reason, like I just get this feeling with that roster, like these guys are never going to split up. Like no matter
it's one of
what
those teams.
happens,
It's definitely one of those teams.
they're just always going to be together. They just have that long history and that chemistry as well too. So I think it would be like the right move, because Priesta has had some good stand-up performance from LANs from what we've seen, like with the statistics we can take away from it. So I think it would be a good switch, but I think it's just rumors swirling around. I really don't think this will be the E6 roster we see in the pro league.
Also weird. Yeah, I mean, it's also weird to see as well. This is the E6 roster that made its name. These are the guys that were on the mouths of everybody in esports back when they made that shock run. When they was under, if I'm right in saying TR, is that right?
It was still E6. Just in
was it E6
2015? Yeah. Yep.
Who's TR? Oh, that's Scraps's.
No, that was Remy, Nagafin, Facento, and Aqua.
Oh, still from what? Still an upcoming team. Whatever, Paradox. It's too smart for me on this show. I can't say anything without being wrong. Anyway, moving on with it. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, like they're a household name within the esports scene. They've come up and they've been together through the whole path. And it's like kicking out your best mate to bring in somebody that's a little bit better at the sports game you're playing in, and he's got to sit on the sidelines and not play with you guys. But that's what it feels like. It's just weird to see it happening. But something else that's happened within the scene as well is the likes of Team Caliber making a return to the Call of Duty scene. And if you cast your minds back to anybody that's seen when we had the chat with Neslo, and we were speaking about the organization TK and will they make a return and how everything's going down over there and what will they do? I mean, we was asking him obviously if he would ever make a return to TK, but not on this game. But in this game, they have made a change, and it's an interesting one as well. So this is not official as of yet, but we are aware that Theory, Goonjar, Happy, and Machilla are now under the new Team Caliber roster. So, I mean, Theory and Goonjar are being obviously the original OGs underneath that Team Caliber roster, but Happy and Machilla, I mean, that addition for you, Paradox, and the way that team's formed, and you look at the type of the play styles of these players, is this the correct mindset for Team Caliber to come back with? I mean, bearing in mind that Team Caliber is very much like Millennium when we were talking about they need to pick up a roster in terms of it has to be high caliber. This is an organization that does not pick up teams that do not have success. Is that what you feel with this team, or is it just not looking like Team Caliber have the right team here?
So I don't like this move, first and foremost, because you're losing Cole Chan, right? Who is a huge part of that roster. And switching Cole Chan for Mochilla, I don't know, like seeing them play, they haven't looked the best, right? But you could say that's sort of been the story for TK the entire year. Like, we expect to see more out of them than they really put forward. Going down the line, I mean, what Moch ends up making noise sometimes at the beginning and then late at the end of the game. If this team sticks all the way together, maybe they have something that comes up in relegation, right? But then you think who are going to be the four bottom teams in the Global Pro League that they would have to go against to get there. And then what, you maybe just see this roster practice for champs and make a run then? I really don't know. I'm not sold on it yet.
I think for me as well, like this is you take a look at Moach, for example, okay, as an individual player in this TK roster. I've not seen him put as much effort and as much grind into a Call of Duty as I've seen him in IW. He really, really is working towards trying to be a top player. And I think this is the opportunity he's been given. He now has to take this with two hands and really, really try to prove that he can be that player that is in the CWL, Global Pro League. And I think that he has put a lot of work into IW. We can see that from when he was playing alongside Sinful. He really is like a game-changing player in this IW. But would you say he has a little bit of inconsistency, Paradox? There's sometimes where you don't know on the day which Moach you're going to get. He's either going to drop 40 bombs against some of the top teams and really, really just slay out completely, or he's having that inconsistent run where he could be one of the reasons why this TK roster doesn't quite push the top levels of the Global Pro League. Do you agree?
I agree. I feel like it just seems something with him to just fall short, right? Their ceiling isn't as high as we would like to think it is, or maybe it is that high, but we're not seeing them reach up and move over to that. And I feel like Team Calor is another sort of comparison you can make to E6 with that sort of idea of family, right? But I think in both situations, you're losing a key player of that roster, right? For different reasons, right? For E6, I feel like Im Ruiz has huge impact potential in games, and then of course the chemistry aspect as well. But here, Cole Chan is just he's such a good player, right? So you're losing that and then replacing it with Moach. Like, no discredit to Moach. I just feel like I don't like the change. I don't.
Right then, moving on. Morks, Royalty, and Exotic LF1. Now, this is obviously your guys' professionalism forte. I have to ask you this question though. Morks, Royalty, and Exotic. Who is it you reckon that they're looking at for this pickup then for this team? So I'm going to go to you first, Dirk, because I always pick on Paradox. I always pick up Paradox on the show.
That's true.
So Dirk, who do you mean, unless you know, or who do you think would be a good fit for this roster?
See, I see a lot of people have been saying get Parasite, but you look at Parasite plays a lot like Mox, and you really don't want two slow ARs on your team. I mean, you're going to have Royalty who's going to be able to switch back and forth from that and the K-Bar and Exotic as well. For some reason, like part of me, like we know, I want to see Miracles on this team.
Yes,
I feel like he's a guy who he's been saying he's at that elite level, but he just needs a chance to really put his name back on the map, But he's been teaming with Killa over and over. It's sort of like they stick together all the time. They never have any success. So I feel like if Miracles really wants to try to get his name back on the map, this is the perfect opportunity for him to try to make some noise with these guys. Now, no discredit to Parasite. The guy just recently has been playing out of his mind. Like I saw a 2K highlight video that somebody made for him, and he was playing really great. But like I said, him and Mox, identical players in terms of the MV4. Now, I feel like in Infinite Warfare, all you need is one slow NV4 player. Now, Parasite can kick it up a little bit and go faster, but he's very good with that NV4 and playing solo. So it's either you bring Parasite in, then you sort of have to change the roles around to see who's going to be playing what as well. But I think Miracles on this team would look very good.
Well, I mean, something quite interesting coming in from the chat. C-Merc says, drop Morks and get Killer and Miracles sorted. So, is that not something you agree with now?
No, Killa needs to take a break from this game. I'm not a Killa hater, but I sit there. It's same with Parasite, how he used to be. When Infinite Warfare dropped, these guys were so negative about everything. It was actually annoying. Like you couldn't go on Twitter without saying, "Oh, IW's buns. Oh, Maven made this. Maven rigged this. Blah blah blah." So like, I feel like for me, like I if I'm anybody looking for a pickup, I would not look at Killa. That's a guy who I'm completely like flag up, like do not go to this guy just because of how negative he is to the game. Yeah. Go back to boots on the ground. Yeah, we might see an elite Killa come out, especially in like Search and Destroy, but it's just been the same thing in Jetpack Call of Duty for him. He had some glimmers of greatness in Black Ops 3, but nothing that was really consistent. We saw the frustration that would come out from him every time in Black Ops 3, jumping from VMP to Man of War, VMP to Man of War. As soon as you ban out that Man of War for Killa, the guy didn't know what to do. But now in Infinite Warfare as well, I feel like you leave this roster how it is. Miracles ditches Killa and comes onto this team. I feel like it'd be the perfect fit. I feel like dropping Mox, who is in this game a 10 times better player than Killa as well. I think we can just be real about that. Mox has been like a young guy. The guy keeps calm, cool, composed. I call him like the dad of the team. He like keeps everybody together as well. So I say you keep these three how they are, add Miracles in. I feel like this team can make some noise.
Well, Going over towards Europe, interestingly, just really quickly before I-60, iGame have made a shake-up towards their roster, and Weeman survived the drop paradox. Something that we were speaking about on the previous show was will Weeman, only just recently made it into the pro scene, maybe doesn't have the greatest friendships built yet with the pro players. Maybe he might, fall out that circle and possibly end up losing the spot that he's worked so hard to get. But no, it's stuck. He's survived. He is in that roster, and I think well deserved as well. Paradox. I mean, we looked at him as an individual player and his highlights and his growth basically from the amateur scene into the competitive scene, and he really does deserve where he is. He's not a player that's been gifted anything. He's not a player that's been given the chance when he doesn't deserve it. He is definitely a player in the position that I want to see do big things in the Global Pro League. I want to see him get to that position. But let's have a look who he is teaming on the roster with then. So it is Weeman, Brain, Desire, and Quicker. Now, this is a really interesting roster for me because it's a little bit of a mix between new talent, people that have been in the scene for quite a while, and they're thrown in the middle, people that have had a bit of a rough year. So it's quite an interesting roster, really, that's been built. I mean, you take a look at Desire, for example, from Epsilon. I mean, after getting dropped from Epsilon, he went through a really rough time, ended up getting dropped again from a new team that he was picked up for, and now was found himself finally in a team under iGame. You take a look at Quicker, who's been around since, you can remember back to Call of Duty Black Ops 3 when Quicker was on Hyper Games. It was always that team that we never knew really what they were going to do at LAN events, but they had great online performances. And I think Quicker as an individual was one of those players that definitely stood out in Hyper Games, was definitely, a key slayer and a key communicator between his teams. And then you look at Weeman, a player that's recently made it into the scene, recently had a bit of a hype train following him and gained quite a lot of followers. So it's really a weird roster for me, Paradox, this one that's been formed, but I think it's been formed with the right mindset though, and I think the guys behind iGame have really had to think about this one, and with the guys that they've dropped out and replaced, they've replaced with some superior talent here. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say this roster shakeup is good to look at on paper, right? I do want to see how they play, how they perform at I-60, because that's going to be the real test for them, right? But you think, once again, Weeman standout player so far in IW. Unfortunate that, he's in the position that he's in. But then you back that up with Brain, Desire, and Quicker. You think, once again, two of them have had a little bit of a rough year. It doesn't look like their skill isn't the thing in question. Maybe the teamwork, maybe some of the chemistry, maybe understanding the game a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like it's not a problem with raw skill, right? So this team can get clicking.
You've got to think as well, Paradox. Desire got 4th place at Champs in Black Ops 3. Yeah. He was on that young roster that blew the minds of everybody. And I'm sorry, but I will say it as far as a lot of people have said that Desire was carried in Epsilon. People have said it for ages. Drop Desire. He was getting carried. But you don't go 4th place at Call of Duty Championships the year before if you're a bad player. I think there were problems within Epsilon. And I think a lot of things we forget is that if team chemistry isn't right, it can drastically affect a player's performance. And a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people, for the likes of Parasite, who has had a lot of rough times, he is still a world champion. He just needs the right game and the right roster. You don't just, in my eyes, you don't just lose the capability of being one of the best players in the world. I don't think that's something that happens. I think your surroundings, your area, the organization that you play under can take into effect a lot of times as well when it comes to you as an individual player. That's why we've seen so many players play as that 3rd or 4th best player and then join a new team and become the best player. Take a look at Wuskins, for example, when he came from the amateur scene. He was that average player who, yes, would drop 30s occasionally here and there, but then he went to ESWC and he dropped 14 kills against some of the best teams in Search and Destroy. And that's what I mean. I think everybody can agree here with us in the chat. There's a lot that comes in. If you can get the right surrounding, the right team, and the right organization, you can then strive to be one of the better players. And I think this is a team I definitely want to see do big things in the Global Pro League going into the future. I'm pretty sure you agree with that, yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. Right then. Who's the next team then? So another European team. So we spoke about Millennium's roster being dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And we spoke about how Millennium, at first when we spoke about it, we thought Millennium weren't going to have an involvement in Call of Duty, but then they came and shocked us and picked up Team Infused. And then we was looking at where this Millennium roster was going to go. Now, this is an organization I'm not familiar with. Whether you two are, I don't know, but they've been picked up by Armor Team. And, they're going to be competing at I-60 in the weekend coming up, so next week. So we'll get our first chance to see them. But, for you then, Paradox, this Millennium roster was dropped by Millennium. And it specifically stated as well, I don't know if you got the chance to see, Dirk, but Millennium specifically put on their website, we have dropped this team because they weren't good enough for us. So I mean, if you're Armour team and you're sat in their offices, and this is no disrespect, but you're looking at Millennium and going, wait a minute, this team was dropped for not being good enough. Pick them up, boys. Sign them up. Let's get the contracts rolling in. We want them on our team. I mean, what's going on, Paradox? How can a team be dropped? Is this just because Millennium is such high caliber that they can't force to have a team underperform?
Probably. I mean, like, I feel the Millennium move picking up Infuse, good for Millennium. I don't know what Infuse's line of thought was there. I mentioned that before. Looking at this Armour team, French organization, so they sort of stay in that sort of scene, are relevant there. And remember, there's a huge fan base for Call of Duty in France, too. So although the team isn't necessarily performing to the best of their ability or what people want them to perform at, these are still players that we know of, that's still exposure. There's still positives coming out of this. Now, is this team going to go to I-60 and win it? I would say no. But can they have a good showing? Possibly. They've just had a bit of a rough year. I don't know. Maybe something has to change. Maybe they have to just get kicked into gear, and maybe that's what Millennium ended up doing. It's like, hey, guys, I'm sorry. You have to go, and maybe this is the push that they needed. I have no idea.
I mean, it's very difficult though when you're the Millennium roster and Millennium's like staff without you knowing is talking in the background about picking up Infused. I mean, you have to having some serious performance if you don't want that roster, the organization, to drop you. But I mean, it's good though. I mean, this is once again another organization entering the scene. That's something you have to look at. I mean, iGame is a organization we've never seen before in Call of Duty, and they've picked up the likes of Weeman, Brain Desire, and Quicker. So it's nice to see there's more involvement coming in and getting involved with the esports scene. But, I mean, it's all down to them. It's literally the ball is in their hands, or in their court, as you could say. Their performance at I-60 says a lot for me. Because you have to remember it's the LAN League, and also remember that how many times have we spoke about Paradox that European teams say that French teams are just nothing but jokes, nothing but online warriors. They can't perform at LAN, and it's another thing as well because Team Supremacy are another team that are going to be there that weekend. Team Vitality, another team that's going to be there that weekend as well. So these are all teams that individually I'm looking out for because yes, you do have a lot of weight on your shoulders from the scene that says you are nothing but online players. And remember, the CWL is a LAN League this year, so even if they want to get anywhere near relegations, they need to start rolling in some incredibly decent performances. Because they get pro points online, but then all the EU scene says is, well, you only get pro points online because of your performances. But if a team from France can go to an event like I-60, place high enough to earn enough points to solidify their spot and say, yes, we deserve to be here, then that's something I'll be looking good to see. Because, I mean, I don't want to remind any Vitality fans, but if you cast your mind back to Black Ops 3 and how they performed,
Don't go there.
I don't want to remind any Vitality fans, but let's be honest, there is a reason why the reputation upholds itself, we could say, Paradox, for online kind of players, really, and why the French scene just is ever so close to breaking into the top dogs, and they just don't make it. But maybe this will be the start of something new for the French scene and see what they can do. Let's talk about Most Wanted then. Because for me, Most Wanted is always every second of the day delving into the esports scene somewhere around the world, whether it's another female streamer, whether it's another content producer, new team. Dirk recognized the dig I had there, but we won't talk about it. Or whether it's anything at all. But this time it's an actual competitive roster that they have picked up. So let's talk about it then. Most Wanted taking over Carbon 6 and Extrovert Esports with the new roster Fastballer, Prophet, Destiny, and Glory. So Fastballer is the player that we spoke about now, recognizing actually wearing the Panda jersey. So I'm going to go to you, Dirk, then, because you may be familiar a little bit more with Fastball coming into this team then. He's a player that basically took, with both hands, the opportunity he was given. Underneath Panda, he had an incredibly good performance, taking Optic, obviously, to that game 5, was it, or game 3? Yep. Game 5, sorry. Game 5. And obviously, unfortunately, they weren't able to come through. But, any team from me, that takes a team to Game 5 like Optic deserves recognition. And I mean, Fastballer was one of those players that had a good series throughout. But I mean, for you, is this a move that will be beneficial for him? Because I'm going to say this: I only recognise Fastball and Prophet. I'm not familiar with Destiny and Glory. Now, I don't know if you guys are, but could you guys just tell me and the viewers about this roster?
So Fastball and Prophet from Panda, I think it was at Atlanta. We had on the Bravo stream, I think we had every single Panda match that they played. So it was 4 games in a row, and it was just the whole entire thing.
It's the innate Panda jersey bias.
Yeah, and the thing that made me it was like so weird about this was I always thought that Fastball and Profizi would stick together and then look for two solid AR players, because every single time you're casting them, individual performances were either going to Profizi or Fastball, and these guys were always very consistent together too. And it was sort of Pemby and Prophet, the players that you had questions about. But Profizi and Pemby, they've been a duo for, I think, dating all the way back to Advanced Warfare. And then Fastball and Prophet had wanted to stick together too. So that was something I found really weird when they split from Panda. I was like, shouldn't it be Fastball, Profizi, and then looking for two strong ARs? And then that's when you could pick up the likes of a Parasite or somebody like that too. But with Destiny and Glory, the players I'm not too familiar with. I know some sort of breakout players probably coming from the Search and Destroy scene if I just had to guess out of anything. But yeah, like I said, Fastball is one of those players, even since the start of Infinite Warfare, pre-patch to where everything was fixed. This guy was using like the FHR and stuff like that in Search and Destroy, in Respawn. Like he's not afraid to step out of his shell and try something new. Because before the SMG meta was completely put into place, I think they're really the ones who took that meta into their hands, and they made everybody start using these submachine guns. There were matches, like you said, going up against Optic and stuff like that, LG. These guys introduced this meta, and that's when teams were like, okay, we step back a little bit. We got to bring out a submachine gun now, too. So you start seeing the ERADs being pulled out, the RPRs being pulled out, too, like the two main submachine guns. But I think like the SMG meta really came to its own because of Fastball and Profizi, but now they're split. But like I said, with Fastball, he's a great SMG player. I talked to Profizi, too. I was like, why didn't you guys stick together? He said, Fastball's a god, but he said he folds on land, gets nervous, plays by himself, stuff like that. So just went straight up brutal with it. So that's something you have to keep in mind, too. But with this roster, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think Prophet probably was the worst player on Panda at the time, too. Probably a toss-up between him and Penby. Like I said, it's really just been Fastball and Profizi, the two players to really highlight. But now with Destiny and Glory are going to be young talent, too. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think these guys will make really any noise. I think it's kind of a setback in terms of Fastball's Call of Duty career. I think it's going to be harder for him to try to break through other than the roster that he was just with. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I mean, if Most Wanted wants to go ahead and leap out and take these guys, I mean, there's not many teams on the market to really go for. So you want to try to get anybody who has that the LAN experience and that potential.
But for me, Paradox, though, the thing that's confusing me a little bit here is, as a spectator of esports and Call of Duty, I didn't see Panda really having bad performances or nothing to the point where it's, okay, alarms are ringing and changes need to be made. Or is this just another case in esports where money's talking?
I feel, yeah, that's one of the things that you can take out of this, right? I mean, Panda barely missed out on a spot in the Global Pro League. From my knowledge, looking at this roster, Destiny and Glory have been... I know they've been at a good amount of these events as far as I know of and can remember. I'm not 100% certain on that, but they've been playing in open bracket. I don't know how far they're getting, but I don't think they're like top 120, something like that. Like they're not all the way down there. They're at least I feel like top 32, 16. Like they're getting through that first half, right? And maybe just need a little bit more. Having Fastball there, I feel like good individually, good player and everything. Maybe, like Dirk said, you can say this isn't necessarily what you would want to see and expect from someone of his caliber. But, if the team works, go ahead. They have a strong brand like Most Wanted behind them, which just recently went through a merger and everything too. So, I mean, it seems like in one way it can be sort of a passing over to okay, now this is a new sort of Most Wanted. We have a lot more utility and everything. We have a lot more staff, and then we have our faith in these guys, and we're going to push them forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, the thing that kind of confused me the most was, yes, they did literally just miss out on that spot. But I mean, by literally just missing out on that spot, you prove that you can hang with these teams that are in the Global Pro League. So in my eyes, the smart move for me was let's stick as a team, work and grind, and then just Season 2 relegations will get right in. It'll be easy. Well, it won't be easy, but we are in my eyes, Panda are, whichever 4 teams get relegated, they are literally on the same caliber as those 4 teams and are more than capable of beating any of the 4 teams that would drop into relegation. So I think that was one thing that really kind of confused me. That roster change came in, but I mean, either money talks or B, people see more stuff that goes on behind the scenes than we do, and there are futures for these 2 teams. I mean, the other thing you've got to take into consideration as well is, let's be honest, how many pro points really does the 2 new players joining MW have? You've got to think, they won't have a great deal because they haven't been to many major MLG events, and it points that get you into season 2 relegations and also Call of Duty Champs qualifiers. So unless they're on some incredible serious grind, and the only problem you got to think as well, Dirk, is there's no more events left now because the LAN League started. Where are these points going to come from?
That's one of the wasn't even like really thinking like that ahead of it in terms of pro points, but I mean, that's a thing. I've always been a fan of teams sticking together. I mean, if there's an obvious, what do you want to say, like wrench in the cog, right? That one player where you just look at it and like, okay, this guy needs to go. But in terms of like Panda, they went 2-2 in pool play. They got dropped down. They lost to Mine 3-1 and then got eliminated. But that's just one of the things, like you said, the battle for the last spot was just between Panda, not Enigma 6, Evil Geniuses, and then the Gosu crew. So it's like a battle between them. So like, why not stick together? You've racked up all these pro points as well. Why are you going to take yourself completely down off of that? I was just looking on the Esport Wiki to try to see how many pro points these guys do have. But I mean, just looking at it, they're not even going to be in the top 16 anymore. I mean, everything's up to date too. So that speaks volumes, right? With where these guys currently stand.
I mean, the thing is as well, a lot of people will say, oh, well, if they haven't got enough pro points, maybe they just wait for champs and be a champs roster. But you need pro points to qualify for champs as well this year. So it's not a case of points have never mattered as much as they do in Infinite Warfare. And that is why there has been these arguments over the scene where people have said, oh, it's not about picking up players now for their talent, but it's about picking players up for their points. But as much as I hate to say that, that is the case. And that does not seem like something that most wanted to have either thought about here or maybe even Fastballer was aware of. Like, it's all about the points. And I don't personally know, but I'm pretty sure if the two of the players that have been picked up for this team have enough points, I would know about it, or we would all know about it, because they would obviously have to be in at least some of the group players, at least for the events that we've seen previously. So I don't know how it's going to go. Maybe Paradox or Dirk can find that out for you and actually give us a rundown.
Pro points right now, like individual players, but I don't see them as of right now.
Well, while they're looking at that, then we're going to talk about really quickly Zealous Esports, who've picked up Cruz and Trans for Geldsy and Benny G, actually. So that's an interesting roster for the EU guys, anybody that's watching. Zealous Esports making a return again. They are an organization that's been around. They have sent a few teams to SSCO, but now really trying to get a roster together that I think could do some big things. There's a lot of players on here that have had chances given to them before that not maybe, you could say, took them with two hands. You take a look at maybe Trans, for example, has been the type of player that really just tries to get towards that high peak of quarterfinals, semi-finals, parts of events, and just misses out. Probably one of the best performances I've seen from him was the previous event at ESWC. He had an incredibly good event. But here's one for you, by the way, you two, because I'm going to let you know of something that you're going to be absolutely mind blown by. So the player that has joined that roster called for Geldsy is the biggest...
interesting name also.
Yeah, here's an interesting name. But if I told you how many pro points he's accumulated from just PP matches, you would ask what he does with his life. My man, for Geldsy, has earned 5,000 pro points from just pro point matches online alone.
That's like the EU Arcities.
Yeah, like what in the world?
That is not accounting 2Ks, that is not accounting events, that is just online games.
Damn.
God. What in the world?
My man for Geldsy is a grinder.
Sheesh.
He is a serious grinder. Every morning you wake up to go to work, you will see at 8:10 in the morning, anyone for PPs. And it is my man for Geldsy. And he will play from 8 o'clock in the morning till he goes to sleep at midnight that same night. He will play throughout the day. For Geldsy is a serious grinder who has accumulated a lot of points from just online matches. I mean, it's the type of person that I bet when MLG turned around and said they're 8-capping, their games, he probably turned around and no! Like, what's he gonna do for the rest of the day? He's now gone from 8 PPs to then just GBs for the rest of the night with his friends, I assume. Get that Call of Duty in. Some people are just wanting it more, and I mean that might end up working for him, Paradox, because I mean he clearly wants this a lot. Oh, yeah. And I mean, he's willing to put his time in that much, then I mean, that might show on events as well. He might end up really, really doing quite well. Something to talk about as well on this team, Paradox, is Benny. So you see Benny G. Now, Benny G is a player that only recently turned 18 and will be his first competitive event. But the thing to take into consideration is his dad, as you could say, or person who he plays a lot of Search and Destroy with, is Tommy from Fnatic. So Tommy from Fnatic plays with Benny G quite a lot and has done for the past year. And what do we talk about when it comes to Tommy and making younger players better?
Does it all the time.
he does it all the time. It's his job. It's basically like he's a charity worker for the Call of Duty youth scene, and he ends up bringing people through. So it's interesting to see. Maybe Benny might have taken some stuff from Tommy, and he could end up being a very, very good player. I know that he's one I've really wanted to look out for in the past. I've seen him try to compete, obviously on online leagues because he's not been old enough to go to these events. But maybe the stage has been set. Maybe this is time that we see another youth player from the European scene have a good performance and make his way into the competitive roster. We've seen the same with Wuskins. Tommy helped him out, and he's doing very well so far. But that, guys, I think sums up everything for Rostermania in terms of players. But we're starting to see coaches make a return. Now, this is really interesting because I don't want to seem like we influenced nothing here, Paradox, but it was the Esports Talk Show that spoke about this and went into full detail on how we think that coaches should have an involvement in the game. And I mean, we also had that discussion on when do we think coaches should come back and stand behind the players, have that involvement, and we all agreed that this should be something that should be enforced.
I would love to see that again.
I miss it. I don't know why it's not.
You were very happy with that. And I think Matt vetoes as well was something we spoke about, wasn't it, Paradox? We wanted Matt vetoes in. I think that would be very good as well. You see it. I mean, these are things that are in every single top esport in the world. And Call of Duty, for some strange reason, just does not want to join other people. It's very much they want to do their own thing, be their own type of company. But you have to get to a point where Esports Hub is, self-promotion plug. Esports is trying to get involved and be bigger seen, and I think Call of Duty needs to get the coaches and Matt Peters, but we'll run through them really quick though. So if you guys missed it, Pac-Man, obviously a very, very experienced player. Now, is this the final sign then, Paradox, that he's hanging up the sticks? Do you reckon?
At least for the rest of the year.
Right, okay.
I don't rule out a Pac-Man return next year.
Right, because
but at least for the rest of Infinite Warfare, I feel like he'll stay.
I'd be very upset if Pac-Man went. I mean, he's kind of become... Yeah. I don't mean to be offensive to him, but he's kind of become a bit of a meme, really, Pac-Man has, and a bit of an iconic member. Like, a lot of people on Twitter do use him for a lot of, memeable things. That's not an offense to him at all. He's a very, very experienced player, and the reason he's a Rise coach is for a reason. But I'm also going to say something else again, Paradox. I'm not saying it was influenced by the Esports Hub or nothing, but what did we say last time? Rise need a coach.
Yeah.
And it's happened. I mean, we were talking, Dirk, just like how Rise always win the first event or the last event, and throughout the year, what happens between the team? They go to MLG Vegas, they end up having an insane performance, and then it's like everybody's demotivated. I think Pac-Man has the right motivation. I mean, for him to be playing as long as he's been playing, he knows how motivation is. He gets on, he plays for as long as he's done. But is he the person, Dirk? Can he change this Rise roster and make them a successful team throughout the year, rather than you're just one team winner?
Dude, that's just one of the biggest things. The way I look at some of these teams who are on top at the start, so for Vegas, Allegiance, Cloud9, Rise, and all them, I think it's almost like these guys put in the effort to really grind the game and study it, right? So this is all, I think, was Vegas pre-patch, or was it I'm trying to think. I can't remember off the top of my head if it was the pre-patch or the patch was already put into place where the spawns were actually good. I can't remember for the life of me. But anyway, but the thing is just so these teams studied the game and everything, right? And I think they got such a big head start above everybody. Now you look at it, everybody has caught up to the meta and what it is. Because I remember when this game first dropped, FaZe was the number one team. Nobody can touch these guys. They were killing everyone. Team Caliber was another team that was destroying everyone. Renegades was a team where I was damn, these guys are gonna go off. But then you see everybody starts catching up, right? And I think the main thing is you only need to learn the meta just piece by piece. It's just like the Optic Gaming, right? These guys really didn't study this game at all. They didn't try to do anything. But now they just kind of get a general feel, and then the rest of it just comes down to slaying. Can you outslay these guys? Rise isn't able to. I mean, nobody's really able to against Optic, right? You look at any head-to-head matchup, that's how they're so successful in Respawn. It's just going to come down to those gunfights. So I feel like the team doesn't get worse. It's just every team around them catches up. And then, like I said, it comes down to that main slaying. And from Rise, that nothing's been going their way.
I think the crazy thing for me, Dirk, is that this Rise roster has never looked bad on paper. They don't look. There's a lot of talent in that Rise roster. And I think the thing that always confuses me is when they go into a tournament. I mean, it must be so hard being a Rise fan because you just never know what the hell is going to happen when Rise rock up to an event. They're either going to absolutely do really well, top groups, go out and make it all the way to the winners bracket finals, or they end up going to get beaten by some of the teams that you would never expect to beat a Rise roster. And I don't know if Pac-Man can be that instigated person. Maybe he is the person that comes in and changes it.
The way I look at it is like coaches in Infinite Warfare, right? You can't stand behind the guys. What do coaches do in this game now? When you think about it in terms of strategy, there's no strategy in Search and Destroy. These guys are just sort of like being like these motivational guys, right? At the end of the game, their team loses. They all get in a big group and stuff like that. Just kind of get their heads right. Hardpoint, obviously, you're going to have strategies in terms of what you're going to do. Like you can have the Panda or E6 style of play where you just 4-man flood one lane, or you just try to go for that split, right? So I feel like the coaches I heard Reap even say it. He just says he's not even a coach. He's like a manager. He just is there for the guys, just talks to them after games, what they could do differently and stuff like that. But I really want coaches to return. Like you said, every esport has it. Why Call of Duty used to. I mean, yeah, like back in the day, you have to think the maturity level back then was really bad. I mean, the likes of Hilton, like when they were talking smack at UMG Atlanta, Mr. X on Complexity. I mean, it made for great entertainment. I feel like now if you add coaches, it's not going to be like that. They're not going to be sitting there cussing out the other team or anything, because like, I feel like we've come so far as like an esport that everybody knows that maturity level that they need to be. I mean, you see the players, there's nowhere near as much trash talk anymore as there used to be. I mean, as much as I missed those days, it made the Call of Duty scene look garbage. And I sat there and I was like, nobody wants to watch us. You see these guys yelling and woo, woo. But yeah, so
Zip them up.
I mean, I like Pac-Man stepping into a coaching role because I feel like him as a player it just isn't going to work out. Going back to boots on the ground though, like Paradox said, we could see a return from him. Maybe it's just like a one-time thing. I mean, for a majority of these players who have gone into retirement too, back to boots on the ground, they might have that motivation to play.
This is just another thing as well though that proves to me motivation. I mean, Pac-Man could have done like every other person has done and just gone, yeah, I'm not playing for the rest of the game. But he's so determined to be in the Call of Duty scene that he's took up a role now as being a coach. And I hope, in a way, Paradox, this kind of instigates a push for other people that have retired to maybe go, you know what, actually, I want to get into coaching. I want to do something. I want to get back in the scene. I miss the scene. I miss being in Call of Duty. And maybe we see more pro players, ex-pro players, then rather than just hang up the stakes and completely leaving the scene, to then actually further get involved. I mean, you see it in football, or soccer, as you would say. A lot of ex-players become managers because they want to stay in that scene and they have the experience as being a player. I think it would help the scene a lot more as well if we had ex-players, a lot more ex-players that have been at one point the best, getting back in and helping our younger players get up in the scene, helping these smaller organizations. I mean, I know Rise isn't, but I'm talking figuratively, and helping, like, you know, using what they've learned as being a player. And you know, even if it's signs and warnings, like, don't do that. Like, I did that once and it didn't work, you know? Like, I think the scene would then become a lot more mature and would then become a lot more, there'll be so much more for us to see in terms of like rosters and teams. So I think it's great that Pac-Man could be a trendsetter for that to see in the future. Anyway, the show is coming towards an end, but we want to go through a few more things. So Empire Esports as well, which is the Australian team, are also proud to announce the arrival of Makafaka, which is an awesome name. That is the best name I've ever seen in my life, as their new CWL coach. So welcome him to #Throne Gang. But we move on to events and tournaments now. So as you've been made aware of, and a lot on Twitter, and maybe you've seen it on mine and Paradox's accounts as well, we are off to UMG Sault Ste. Marie for this week, and we're going to be going I'm going to be going all the way to Canada. Not that far for you to go though, Paradox. But yes, we're going to be going to the UMG 10K in Canada, so you'll be able to catch me and Paradox there. Now, whether you want to actually go to the event, and even if you want to come up and see Paradox and myself, I mean, that's a bit of a long shot, but if you do, then you can, because spectator passes are what, Paradox? What are spectator passes? They are completely... Free. Yes, that's right.
Free.
Paradox is correct.
No better word than free.
Free. If you can get yourself to the event, you can get in the event completely free. However, VIP passes are a little bit of money, but obviously, yeah.
Get a fancy T-shirt, right?
You do get a fancy T-shirt, to be fair. I mean, there's always these little benefits that you just don't quite see. And also, it's the first big event since the cancelled UMG Orlando, obviously, when the storm happened. It's the first biggest event as well. So it's nice to see UMG really getting back into the scene as well, Paradox. Like, you know, for a long time, MLG kind of dominated the competitive scene because they had no competition. But UMG are coming back again, once again, and now going to start to try and pump a bit of money into the system. I know that I've spoken to a couple of people at UMG, and there's a few future plans as well that they have going into the next Call of Duty and towards the end of this Call of Duty for even more bigger things to come with that as well. However, though, we've spoken about tournaments and UMG and everything else, but I mean, we tweeted out not long ago, didn't we, Paradox, that we had big things to come, and everybody was like, what's going on? Well, we're going to reveal it here live. It's going to be the Esports Hub Talk Show tournament.
Thanks, Kendall. Kendall's idea.
fireworks, all that type of stuff. Look how excited Dirk is. Look at that.
It sounds like fireworks. It sounds more like a fart than fireworks. Just saying. I don't know if Johnny's going to be happy with those sound effects.
Yeah, the budget, Paradox. Think of the budget. We've got to do it ourselves these days. Next time we do a big announcement, I want you to pull party poppers out, Paradox. I just want all that type of stuff to happen. But yeah, that is right, guys. So basically, next Tuesday there will be a 4v4 variant tournament starting at 6 p.m. GMT called the Talk Show Tournament Tuesday. So every week, apart from this week, the community will pick what game and what settings they want to play, and the tournament will most of the time be streamed and casted with a prize pool. However, we'll be taking some of the best players and recapping them and showcasing them here live on the talk show every Thursday. So think of us as a little bit like a match of the day, maybe for football over here, or a sports review show where they take a look at everything that happened in the tournament that they hosted and looked at the best moments from it as well. And maybe we'll get some of the players who've won some of the tournaments on the show as well to talk to us about what they think and how it went down and if they enjoyed it and will they retain their title the next week. So it is the talk show tournament Tuesday. Every Tuesday we're going to have a tournament up, sometimes casted, maybe prize pools to come in as well. But that's not just it, Paradox, because in addition to that, the Esports Hub has announced a brand new open league. That is right, 32 teams are going to compete for a prize pool. We can say that this will be changed to the Esports Hub Talk Show League. So the Esports Hub Talk Show League is going to also be a thing as well. That will also be recapped on our shows. We'll talk about the matchups. We'll talk about the future prospects. We'll talk about players to watch out for. We'll talk about how we thought a game went down, upsets, roster changes, prize pool announcements. Everything competitive is about to start happening. We promised this for you. We said at the start of every show for the past couple of months that what we're going to do is definitely bring in more tournaments, more leagues. We was waiting for the website to drop. That's happened. We was waiting for more things to begin. They've all started happening, and now here we go. We're starting.
See, the hype blew Dirk away. Like,
did it? Oh, did I miss
so
that?
much hype.
Dude, I got the biggest foot cramp for when I did that. Oh my god!
I'm gonna do this thing because I missed it on the Skype camera. So Dirk, take two, yeah.
I went like this, and I was pretending to fall out of my chair, and my chair actually fell back, and I sit there, and then my foot started cramping up. I was like,
well, if anybody has been hurt by this, we do apologise. I mean, Dirk is one of them. He's now got a foot cramp. But that does not cover at all under our insurance policies whatsoever. Overhyping doesn't come under the terms and conditions. Sorry, have you been hurt overhyping in the past couple of years? That'll be the call Dirk will get in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, there is so much stuff to come. We promised it, and it's finally here. Now, I know that qualifications are going to be going out soon to make your spot actually in the Esports Hub League, the Esports Hub Talk Show League, as I should now say it as well. But then you've got, if you don't make the league, you've got tournaments every single Tuesday. There is going to be more chances for people to appear on our show, and it has been growing. And we don't stop there, Paradox. I-60 is a week away. That's not it. That is not it. I-60 is a week away, and the Esports Hub is giving away Esports Hub apparel. You can win yourself one of these Esports Hub jumpers or Esports Hub snapbacks. They are going to be given away by myself. Cool. I want the snapback as well. They're going to be given away by myself and Johnny, the owner of the Esports Hub, and Tony, who are all three of us are going to be at I-60, where you guys can come up to us. Now, I've made a rule you have to give me a hug for a jumper. That's just my rule. I mean, you know, free hugs around, you know what I mean? Paradox, I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea, mate.
It might be.
Might be. Let's just get absolutely rubber tackled and the guy thinks Hug has robbed me and he takes all the jumpers and I'm on the floor and that's it. I'm done for the weekend. But anyway, if you want to get yourself one of these, now I'm pretty sure the ones that we've got don't have hoods, so they're more jumpers than hoodies. But I know that a few of them are hoodies, a few of them are jumpers. So make sure you do find us at I-60 and also check our social media out as well, because that's where you can find out where to get involved with the giveaway for Insomnia 60. But guys, we're a little bit overdue here on the time that was scheduled to finish for the show, but I don't really care at this point because we've talked about so much stuff, to be honest with you. I don't care if we go over. I love the fact that we've had Dirk on. Dirk, thank you very much for being involved. And hopefully...
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we can get you involved with casting some of these Esports Hub leagues, some of these Esports Hub tournaments. Maybe you'll want... Oh, see that, Paradox?
Yeah, see. He always loves showing off the flag, of course.
I love that.
Jack.
Amazing. That's amazing. Esports Hub will be proud, even though we did Paradox. Oh, here we go.
Oh no, what's he doing now? He's gonna have an American one, isn't he?
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. If like an AK-47 sprayed it and said.
There we go.
Oh,
nothing says America like an M4 carbine and Budweiser.
And on that note, guys, that is everything here from the Esports Hub Talk Show. Thank you, Dirk. Thank you, Paradox. Thank you to our production team, Kendall. And I've been your host, Campbell. Make sure you follow our Twitters down below. Thank you, and good night.